If this doesn't help you wake up, I don't know what will. Estimated percent of 30-year-olds who are both married and homeowners. Look at the 1950s, about half of them. 1970s, it starts going downhill. That's neoliberalism. You start getting austerity for the working class, attacks on unions, etc. But something happens in the 1990s where it intensifies this decay to the point where now we literally have less than 15% of 30-year-olds who are capable of having a home and a family. And I don't know if you know this, but it's not without reason that they call the family the basic unit of society. If you can't have families, what does that say about society at large? What happened in the 1990s that led to this intensifying of the decay? In my opinion, it was the collapse of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union presented an alternative model of civilization, an alternative form of life that was ever present as a threat to the dominant one, and therefore that forced the capitalists in the West to at least sustain the pretense of some form of opportunity and prosperity for its working classes, specifically in the US for the white part of the working class. In 1990, the Soviet Union falls, and we have what Francis Fukuyama called the so-called end of history, which I think is now coming itself to an end. But what this meant was that the capitalist West was free to do whatever the hell it wanted with no pushback from this alternative world order. Internationally, it means we could have invaded whoever the hell we wanted, and there was no one there to push back against US imperialist action. Nationally, what it meant was that our working class and the American people had no alternative that they can turn towards, and therefore, if we wanted them to live in misery, they could live in misery. If we wanted to make them poorer, more indebted, and more desperate, what the hell else are they going to do? There's no alternative vision that they can look at and say, maybe things are better over there. This is why the collapse of the Soviet Union was not just horrendous for Russia and the Soviet bloc as a whole, where these countries literally demodernized. It was horrible also for the American working class, because the only alternative form of life that was immediately present to them, that threatened the capitalist class in the West to the point where it had to sustain at least a basic level of living standard for its workers, was now gone. And they were free to do whatever they wanted. They had free reign to destroy lives in whatever way they wanted, because no one was going to use it against them. This is why today talking about China is so important, because it presents a real world alternative to the current order, something that is actually different than a form of life where the people that are in power and call all the shots are just a bunch of banksters, are just a bunch of investment firms that own everything. In China, it is the Communist Party, which is the party of the people, 100 million of them which are in the party, which call the shots and decide how society functions and make sure that society functions for the interests of the common good. That's an alternative vision of progress, of civilization, of society, that now our people can begin to see thanks to social media. But for a long time, that did not exist. And that was precisely why we could get squeezed as bad as we have been. What else were we going to do? The only world that could possibly exist was capitalism.